Hi, this is Kristen with Hooks, Books, and Wanderlust. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a stitch tutorial to show you how to make a modified version of the iris stitch. The iris stitch is constructed using 2 pairs of double crochet separated by a chain space, all worked into the same stitch of the previous row. In this case, I am doing a variation on that stitch because I want to be able to work an iris stitch on top of a chain stitch mesh or trellis stitch. So when I originally did this using the iris stitch, it was just too bulky to have the 2 double crochets on this side and then the 2 double crochets on that side plus those chains from the previous row. It ended up looking like I had way too much going on. So in an effort to kind of unbulk that, I decided to omit the first and last double crochets, using the chain spaces and some slip stitches into those chain spaces as a way to kind of create the same look of those chain stitches mimicking a double crochet on both the front and the back of my iris stitch. So let's get into how to make it. The first thing I'm going to show you or tell you about it is we're going to work a sequence of stitches all into the same stitch from the previous row. In this case, we're working into the single crochet that comes between my chain 5 spaces in this row of trellis stitch or chain mesh that I've got here. And to make that modified version of that iris stitch, it's going to start with a slip stitch and it's going to end with a slip stitch with the sequence of stitches in between worked into that single crochet there. The only exception to that is at the very beginning and the very end of my row, I'm actually going to work a single crochet, as I've got one worked here. That's just going to make it easier for me to work into on subsequent rows. So for this purpose of the very first one, I'm doing a single crochet since we've got like a half chain 5 space here. So I'm going to work a double crochet and then a chain 1 and a double crochet, all worked into that same single crochet from the previous row. And now I'm going to, instead of having 2 double crochets on this side, I'm going to slip stitch to the center of my chain 5. And now it kind of looks like this half of that chain 5 mimics the look of a double crochet. So I get the same feel of my iris stitch without the bulk. So now with that, I am able to go in and work my modified version of the iris stitch completely. So I'm starting with a slip stitch. I'm going to work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into this single crochet from the previous row. And then I'm going to end with a slip stitch into the middle of the chain 5 space. So let's do. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we'll end with a slip stitch. Let's do it again. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, slip stitch. So as you can see, I don't have the bulk of a second double crochet for this iris stitch because I'm using those chain stitches as my first and last double crochet of this iris stitch. And the other thing you're going to notice is I only have 1 slip stitch in each of my chain 5 spaces. And that means that each of my modified iris stitches are going to share the slip stitch with their neighbors. So as long as we have something tying this side down to that chain space, then we are good to go. Again, the only exception to that is the very first and very last, because we're going to use single crochets on our edges. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this row, and I'm just going to show you how to finish it off with that last stitch here in just a minute. Okay, so I have worked my row of modified iris stitches, and as you can see, they look pretty consistent with the iris stitches that I've got down here in this other panel. So again, less bulky than just working the iris stitch. So now that I've gotten to the last single crochet of my row, I'm just going to show you how to work that. It's not any different really than the other ones. It's just, again, we end our last modified iris with a single crochet instead of a slip stitch. So I am going to double crochet, maybe, chain 1, double crochet. Now I'm going to single crochet into the 4th chain. So I've got a chain 7 here is what I used for my mesh because I want my sides to have a treble plus a chain 3. So I'm going to single crochet into the 4th chain from this initial chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just gonna get under that back bump there, and then I'm just gonna single crochet into it. And that is how you make the modified iris stitch. There's not really all that to it. Pretty simple, right? So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any. I'm also going to be putting a footed tutorial for this as well on my blog. So I will link that below for you, as well as a link to the iris stitch tutorial in case you want to see how to do that one as well. So those will both be below. And be sure to look out for this stitch in my 2 upcoming patterns. It's going to be the iris shawl and the iris table runner. Yeah, that's all I've got. If you liked this video and you found it helpful, by all means, please hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos, new tutorials, new patterns, and all that fun stuff. So I will catch you guys next time. Bye.